What's going on, ladies and gentlemen? Randy here with RTS Mobile Gaming, bringing you a fantastic Diablo IV video today. In today's video, we are talking about the skill prioritization for leveling up your Druid, okay? This is super duper key. I've tested a lot of builds here in my grind up, and I can tell you undoubtedly that out of the 6 different builds that I've run, this particular build has much higher damage, much better survivability, and overall a really great flow to the grind, which is fantastic. I'm not waiting on minute-long cooldowns to kill something. I can kill stuff non-stop, efficiently, quickly, and get a lot of experience fast and have a lot of fun. Okay, so let's get right into it. Like and sub if you feel like this video is going to help you, and let's rock and roll, folks. Yes! First things first. Okay, now, the first thing I want to look at is going to be called Spirit Boons. Somewhere between level 15 and 30, you're going to go to the Druid headquarters, and you are going to liberate Tur-Dul-Ra. I did not pronounce that correct. I'm not going to try again. But this particular city is going to be the Druid HQ. You will liberate it, do a series of quests, blah, 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 unlock the Boon system, okay? This doesn't obviously apply to you if you haven't unlocked the Boon system yet, but I just want to show you the boons that I've selected because they're going to really apply to how I built this build, okay? The first boon I've selected is going to be called Wariness. This is going to reduce the damage I take from elites by 10%. This is just a great, well-rounded boon from the Stag, okay? Then at the Eagle, I've taken Avian Wrath, which increases my critical strike damage by 30%. This is a really big deal because one of my skills is going to most of the time have a 100% chance critical strike. So getting bonus critical strike damage is super duper important for me, okay? Next, I have 2 boons in the Stag. This is the one that I specialized in. Okay, I bonded with the, oh, the wolf? Sorry, this is the wolf. Looks like a stag, but it's a wolf. I don't know why. All right, I bonded with the wolf, which looks like a stag. The Pack Leader is the first skill that I got here. This is going to basically mean that when I do get a critical strike hit, it has a 20% chance to reduce the cooldown on my companion skills. You'll see in a minute when I get to the skill tree that companion skills are one of the most beneficial skills I'm using because it has crowd control and a huge amount of damage. Okay. Energize. 50% chance when dealing damage to restore 10 spirit. This is really great for keeping me moving as I'm killing things. I'm restoring spirit whether I'm using a generator or not. It's really, really helpful. And then lastly, down in the Snake, okay, I've got Obsidian Slam here. So basically every time I kill 20 enemies, my next Earth skill will be overpowered, which means it does a bunch of bonus damage based on my HP and my overpower bonuses, okay? So keep those in mind, especially this crit one and the spirit generation one. I'm going to generate a ton of spirit from all the damage I'm going to be dealing, and I'm going to be generating a ton of companion damage output by resetting the cooldown from critting all over the place, okay? That is the point of this build. Crit like crazy, spam your companion skills, generate a ton of spirit, and slam them in the face with earth skills. All right? That is the build. Now, as we go into the skill tree, the most important thing I want you to remember is you do not need to put 5 points into one of these skills in order to progress in the next tree. Okay? To progress to the second tree, I just need 2 points in the first tree. I'm going to put 3, but I only need 2. To progress to the next tree, okay, to the defensive tree, I only need a total of 6 points. To progress from defensive to my companion skills is a total of 11 points. And then if I want to go into the Wrath skills, I only need 16 points. So in theory, at level 17, you could be all the way down into the Wrath side of the tree. All right, then we go to the ultimate skills at 23 points. And then you have the key passive down here at 33 points, okay? So you need to be into your level 30s before you're able to grab the key passive, which we'll talk about in a minute. But you can get all of the skills that you need to put 6 skills on your bar by level 17. You could have 6 skills on your bar by level 17, okay? Level 23 obviously will get you into the ultimate section. We're not going to talk about ultimate skills because I didn't pick any, but I'm just showing you don't have to be level 50 to go into these bottom trees, okay? Let's rock and roll. So, first things first, let's talk about Storm Strike. This is my favorite of the basic abilities because it is going to give you reduced damage received, 25% reduced damage received. It's going to hit up to 4 enemies, okay? You only need 1 point in it for now. It's going to have a 50% chance to mobilize all your enemies, 2.5 seconds. And then with the Fierce Storm Strike, it's going to have a 50% chance to make the enemies vulnerable. There's an additional skill we'll get later on that adds another 10% to this, so you will have a 60% chance to make the 4 enemies that you hit vulnerable 50% chance to immobilize them in place, and it's going to give you a 25% reduced damage received bonus. Okay? Vulnerable is super key. Vulnerable is one of the main priorities of this build. You could almost call this build the vulnerable build. Everything's built around this thing being vulnerable and critting a lot. Okay, so if I'm applying vulnerable debuffs to the enemy, it means they take bonus damage. It starts at 20%. You can dramatically increase that through bonuses on your skills, bonuses on your, I can't even speak today, on your items and things like that. So vulnerable is super duper key. It's one of the best things in the game, especially for this build. Okay, I now have 3 points here. So going to level 4, you're now going to move into the core skill tree where you're using this spirit. The core skill tree is the only skill tree that uses spirit, or your main resource, okay? Now, a lot of people like to talk about tornado. Tornado, tornado, tornado. I want you to pay attention to the 38 spirit cost on tornado. That is a large amount of spirit to drop a single spell, okay? I happen to like the 29 spirit cost on Landslide. Significantly less spirit. It actually does higher damage than tornado, and it's going to trigger a lot of great things in this build that you're going to see in 1 second, okay? So we're going to go ahead and drop into Landslide. I happen to have 2 bonus skill points from my, I think my necklace gives me +2 skill points to this or something like that, or maybe my helmet, I don't remember. One of my gear pieces gives me +2 skill points to Landslide, so it's level 7. But we're going to go into Enhanced Landslide, and then we're going to go up here into Primal Landslide, okay? The whole point of Primal Landslide is this: every time I immobilize or stun an enemy, which I'm going to be doing non-stop through my Storm Strike and through my later seals you're going to see in a minute, every time I immobilize or stun an enemy, I gain a Terror Mote. I can consume those Terror Motes to basically... oh my goodness. You can consume those Terror Motes to get a guaranteed critical strike against the enemy you're dropping a Landslide on, which is fantastic, okay? So this is going to be really, really big. It's going to be one of the main catalysts for regenerating my companion skills, as you saw down below, right? 20% chance when I crit to regenerate my companion skill. Well, guess what? When every Primal Landslide is going to be a crit, I have a lot of chances to trigger that companion skill. So that's really, really big, okay? The Raging Landslide is also good. There is a version of this build where you don't go this guaranteed crit version. Raging Landslide probably does a tiny bit more damage overall when I'm striking an immobilized or stunned enemy. But if they're not immobilized or stunned, the Primal Landslide is going to be much better all around, okay? So now I've spent 5, 6, 7, right? 8, 9, 10, a total of 10 skill points I've spent. So going to level 11 here, we're going to go to the defensive tree. This tree is great. Earthen Bulwark is where you want to go first. 1 point there, 1 point here, 1 point here. Okay, now we spent 13 total points, so you're level 14. So at level 14, you now have an Earthen Bulwark you can trigger every 16 seconds. It's going to absorb 50% of your base HP as damage. It's going to last for 3 seconds. It's going to make you immune to crowd control. You cannot be frozen. You cannot be stopped, feared, stunned. You know, they cannot stop you. You are unstoppable. Okay, and then Fortify is super duper important for one of the items I'm using. Okay, one of my items gives me bonus damage when I am fortified. So I really like the Fortify version. I have seen people run with innate Earthen Bulwark, but honestly, get Fortify. It makes you so tanky. Fortify reduces the damage that you take, okay? It's really, really nice to have, and it's going to make you, like I just said, much tankier. So this is a good route for leveling up, okay? But you could really go either way. It's up to you. Next, now we have 3 points on the bar, okay? I'm going to put 1 point into Blood Howl. This is a really good... I'm going to drag it over here. This is a really, really great skill for sustaining you in combat, okay? 1 point in Blood Howl, 1 point in Enhanced Blood Howl, and 1 point in Preserving Blood Howl, okay? This means that every 15 seconds, you are going to heal yourself for 22%. You're going to give yourself 15% attack speed, and you are going to, every time you kill something, have a chance to reduce this Blood Howl by 1 second cooldown, okay? So if you are killing tons of enemies, you could be popping this thing every 5 or 6 seconds. You could be healing yourself by an enormous amount. This is very, very great for sustaining yourself in the grind, okay? Also, there are legendary items that let you apply Blood Howl to your whole group. Okay, so if you happen to get that legendary item, you can be healing and giving your group a ton of benefits every 5 or 6 seconds as well, which is really great for party farming. So now we've spent a total of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 16 total points, folks. So you are level 17. You now have 4 skills on your skill bar. At level 17, you're going to drop down here into the companion skill tree. You will be grabbing Poison Creeper. This is insane. Poison Creeper is amazing. I cannot explain to you how much I love this skill. Okay? And it's going to go in my level 3 spot. So Poison Creeper is going to immobilize the enemy for 3 seconds. Okay? Once I select the skill, it's going to immobilize him for 3 seconds. It's going to deal fantastic damage to the enemies, 1,200 damage over the course of those 3 seconds, right? And then we also have a passive, as you can see this little guy running around me right here. It'll passively attack people around me every couple seconds, every 7 seconds, and apply great poison damage right there. Okay? From here, there are 2 things to do. 1, if you are not going the guaranteed crit build, you are going to get the Brutal Poison Creeper, because this is going to give you 20% crit chance every time, for the duration of this 3 seconds, okay? If you are going the crit build, which I am, you're going to drop down and grab Ferocious Poison Creeper. This is going to increase the damage that you're dealing significantly, because it's going to double the duration of the poison. And on top of that, it is going to add many more instances to trigger your Spirit Boon, right? Remember we were talking about the Spirit Boon, Energize. Damage dealt to the enemy has a 15% chance to restore 10 Spirit. This is going to double the amount of damage applications to the enemy from my Poison Creeper, okay? And this is going to be one of my main damage dealing skills. So we're going to come back here very soon once I finish out this bar, and we are going to max out Poison Creeper as one of my main damage dealers. Poison Creeper and Landslide are my 2 biggest damage dealers in this build. Okay? From there, we have now unlocked the Wrath skill tree, folks, and just ignore the points I already have here. I have some items that give me skill points to these. I'm not getting any of that. What I'm getting here today is going to be called Hurricane, okay? So Hurricane is really great. I'm going to grab Enhanced Hurricane. So essentially for 8 seconds, it's going to put a huge whirlwind around me. It's going to reduce enemy speed by 25%, and it's going to have a 15% chance to make them vulnerable, okay? Remember when I said applying vulnerable is a key part of this build? Well, this is why, okay? This particular skill, this is part of that. We'll talk about why in a second. So now I have several different skills applying vulnerability to the enemies, so I have a very high chance of having it up all the time. You could, if you are finding that you're dying a lot and you want to get a little bit tankier, you could grab Savage Hurricane instead. Okay, this is going to reduce the damage that enemies deal by 20% when they're hitting you. It's really up to you, depending on how your grind is going. If you find yourself blowing through people no problem and you're not dying, go to Natural Hurricane, get more damage, okay? From here, we've now spent a total of 22 points. So you're only level 23 right now, guys. We just hit level 23. I got 22 points in the well. Where am I going to go next? Great question. Okay, I now have all 6 skills ready to go. I don't have enough skills to go down to the Wrath tree, which I don't care about. I don't have enough skills. I still need 11 more points to go down to the key passive tree here. So now I have some more points to place, right? The first thing I want to do is get Poison Creeper maxed out, because I can double the amount of damage this is doing. I can literally double the amount of damage Poison Creeper is doing by leveling up to 5, okay? Or not, well, it's up by 50%. A significant increase in damage, okay? From there, I can also grab Call of the Wild, which increases my companion damage by an additional 30%, but I'm going to pick that up in a minute, okay? Well, it's been a minute. I picked it up, okay. From here, we now have 15 points to spend. There's a couple things you can do with these 15 points. There's several more offensive skills that we're going to get. Our 2 main offensive damage dealers are now leveled up, okay? But I also want to take a look at this fantastic tree for elemental exposure. This is the key part of this build, okay? I'm now adding an additional 10% chance to make enemies vulnerable to my storm skills. So Hurricane had a 15% chance before. It's got an additional 10% chance now. Now it's got a 25% chance. My Landslide has a chance. My Storm Strike has a 60% chance, right? All of these things are going to apply vulnerable. Why do we care about vulnerable? Great question, Randy. Great question. Bad Omen. This is another reason why you like vulnerable, okay? Bad Omen is going to apply a 30% chance when you're dealing damage to vulnerable enemies or immobilized or stunned, which we do all three of those, right? We immobilize, we stun, and we make vulnerable all of our enemies. It's going to have a 30% chance to hit them with a huge damage lightning bolt nuke. That's a big deal. It's a big nuke. Okay, if my landslide's hitting for 1200, the nuke's going to be hitting for 600. It's a lot of damage. It's pretty nice, okay? It's a lot of damage coming out right there. From there, we can do a couple more things. And keep in mind, I'm working at level 41 right now, so I don't even have the other 15 skill points I'm going to generate through leveling and through completing the storyline, okay? So now we're going to go down into the ultimate tree, in a key passive tree. I can now grab the perfect storm here, which is going to be the key passive we want to use for this build. As you can see, it is going to apply 15% bonus damage when the enemy is vulnerable, immobilized, or slowed, which they are all the time with our build. Every time we're fighting, every second we're in the fight, they are debuffed with something. This is going to increase our damage by 15%, okay? The other option for this build is Nature's Fury. This is a little bit harder to calculate. It has a random chance, 20% chance to trigger an additional skill of the opposing elemental type between Earth and Storm when you activate the other one, okay? Self-explanatory, hard to calculate the damage increase here. I'm going to go with the 15% flat damage increase, and we're going to talk about that later, okay? I still have 7 points left at level 41. So I'm going to go into Defiance. This is super duper big for me. Okay, nature skills, these are going to affect both my storm and my earth abilities, right? Hurricane is storm and nature, right? My landslide is, oh god, where is it? Earth and nature, okay? So, getting this nature damage bonus to elites is a big deal. From here, we're going to go into natural disaster. This is another reason why we want this vulnerable up all the time, okay? Natural disaster is going to give me an additional 12% damage bonus to enemies with my earth skills if they are vulnerable, okay? So 12% from here, 15% from the passive. That's 27% bonus damage if someone's made vulnerable, in addition to the 20% bonus damage they receive when they're vulnerable. Okay, so this build is about keeping vulnerable debuff up all the time and abusing it. I have 1 point left. There's a lot of things I can do with this 1 point, okay? Realistically, as I continue to level up, I'm going to get all of these. I'm going to get 6 more points over here. I'm going to grab a few more points up into the defensive tree, okay, because I'd like to get this Ancestral Fortitude maxed out, which is going to be an additional 15% resistances to the non-physical type, and then 3 points over here in Vigilance, so I take 15% reduced damage for 6 seconds after using a defensive skill. Both of those are going to be really, really big. I mean, basically, you can reduce your damage taken dramatically in addition to being fortified and getting a bubble anyways. So that's where I'm going with this build. I'm going to go ahead and put this point into the heal just because I like having sustain, okay? There's nothing like having great healing every time I deal damage to somebody to make me happy. All right, so that's the build, guys. That has been the overall theme here. It synergizes with my boons very well. Every time I crit, I have a chance to reset the cooldown on my companion skills. My companion skills is one of my biggest damage dealers. My companion skill also applies debuffs to the enemy by immobilizing them, which increases all of my damage because I do a lot more damage to people who are immobilized. Okay, I make them vulnerable, so I deal a ton more damage to enemies who are vulnerable. So really, this build is just about sprinting through the enemies, wham, bam, slam, pew, pew, pew. You have great sustain from Blood Howl and from using your own spirit skills to deal damage, as you saw in that last skill selection. And you basically just take a ton of reduced damage. Okay, so that's the build, folks. If you guys have enjoyed this, let me know. Like I said, I've been running this build for the last 15 levels or so. It's been really, really great. I've enjoyed it much more than the other 5 or 6 builds that I've tried out. So like and sub if this has helped you. Randy out.